I'm Chris Bussing. Welcome to my channel. It's committed to helping more people create a life of freedom and impact through success in sales and the pursuit of self-development. Man, do we have the privilege today of having Richard Weylman, a Hall of Fame keynote speaker and best-selling author, here today to talk about his latest book, and he's written several before, 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life. And Richard, what's the end to the title? Isn't it about creating permanent business success?
The path to permanent business success, correct. Because relationships, as we all know, drive revenue.
I just got chills. I mean, talk about inspiring when we talk about the concept of permanent success. Is that even a thing? So, Richard, I'd like to start there because I noticed I was super lucky to get an inside look at your manuscript, and you dedicated the book to people who want to create permanent business success and a legacy. What does that mean to you?
Well, from the big picture perspective, a lot of people get into a business. They're an entrepreneur. They're an individual that perhaps has inherited a business or bought a business, or they're in a position to be part of something bigger than themselves, or maybe they're a partner or something. And so the issue always becomes, can you build a sustainable business? Can you really build a business that not only serves the community and does the things that you want to do, but people are curious and are compelled and want to continue to do business with you and expand your business because of what you're doing on, quote, their behalf. So when we talk about building a permanent business success, we're talking about, are you really in a position, are you doing the things that the consumer wants, where they step up and say, these people care about me, this company really has my best interest at heart, and these are individuals, and I'm going to tell people in my network, they need to be doing business with. That builds you permanent business success. And from a legacy perspective, and all of us have a legacy. Some is positive, some is not as positive, whatever the case might be. But here's the key thing about legacy. You are going to make an impact on people in your life. Your customers are going to have an experience. You get to decide what that's going to be. And that in becomes your legacy. Is that helpful?
It's very helpful, and what a way to kick off the conversation. And you talk about something that is described as a great reevaluation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the term. And our business is going through this great reevaluation. What does that mean?
Oh, wonderful question. And you're exactly right. I talk about this. So let's rewind a couple of years. We went through what? The great, pandemic. Okay. And everybody was, and then we went through the great resignation. Everybody was, I'm out of here. I'm over there. I'm over here, over there. All right. But what's going on now? What's going on now is that people are saying, my dollars only go so far and I only have so many of those. And I'm sick and tired of being treated like an account. So I'm going to reevaluate. Am I with the right doctor? Am I with the right financial advisor? Have I got the right real estate agent? Honey, are we going to the right restaurant? I mean, I heard the guy up the street in that Italian restaurant, the food's even better than what we're paying here. And, a dry cleaner is good, but man, I get so tired of the fact they don't fold my shirts. I mean, it just gets me nuts. So what do? We evaluate. Am I with the right provider? Am I with the right company? Are they doing the things that I need them to do? And am I getting, let's just say, value for my money? Of course, everybody thinks value means, the cheap price. No, today, value is determined by the consumer. So, and how do they equate value? Over 80% of their value is based on the experience they have with you. Because products are commoditized for the most part. I mean, you can buy a car pretty much anywhere. You can get a financial advisor. Real estate agents are bound by law to do certain things. So there's a commoditization of most things. So what people are doing is evaluating. Now, wait a minute. I can get this pretty similar right up the street, or maybe I should go somewhere else. So people are assessing, am I with the right advisor? Am I with the right professional? Am I with the right company? Am I using the right air conditioning people? What do you think, honey? Do you think we ought to change? And that reevaluation creates a remarkable opportunity. Because the next big thing is the great re-engagement. And if you engage with people and give them what they want in an experience, they move their business to you and they tell everybody in their network.
So what do they want? You got me pumped up.
So there's a side lesson there, and that is curiosity always beats convincing. But be that as it may, which was my last book, The Power of Why, Breaking Out into Conviction.
Oh, you got some good ones.
So, well, thank you. So what do people really want? I mean, yeah, they want good service. I mean, I hear all these. I had a conversation today. Well, with the CEO, well, my people really give good service. We got great service scores. Our satisfaction scores are very high, Richard. Our people are very happy. Well, just remember something. A satisfaction score is a look back. You're asking, have you been satisfied with where you've been so far with us? And the answer is usually yes, at a high level. But today, service is a minimum expectation is good service. What people really want is an elevated experience. And those two words get thrown around like, peanuts in a peanut gallery. They don't mean any. I mean, people elevate experience. Well, my experience is pretty good. So let's really break that down. What do people really? I mean, what do they really want? Let's stop all the, psychological words and all the things that make people sound like they're smart. I'm a pretty simple guy, and I've spent my entire life trying to understand what's going on the other side of the desk, what's going on out there in the street. People ask me, what do I think? I always say, who cares what I think? I want to know what the people in the stucco house are thinking. If I can figure that out, we can win. So that's how I wrote this book. I began to noodle on this, and I thought, we're all talking about elevated experience. Everybody's talking better service and AI. Stop. So I started asking people, what do you want? You know what they want? They want four things. They want to do business with, let's say, an individual. We'll break it down that far. Someone who is thoughtful, takes a moment for them, doesn't treat them like a transaction, or thoughtful. Secondly, looking for somebody that's kind. Goes the extra mile, does the extra thing. You don't just walk them to the door, you walk them to the car. As an example, you don't just hold the door, you walk them to the car. Third thing they're looking for is somebody that really, from the perspective of an individual, that you're kind, you're thoughtful, and you're caring. If you're kind, thoughtful, and caring, people engage with you. And then the bedrock of it all is you got to be empathetic. Every customer thinks their situation is unique. I don't care what they're buying. If I go to a dry cleaner and I got a stain in my tie, that's unique to me. That's the most important thing. I need the stain out of my tie. If I'm if I'm coming to a financial advisor and I sit down, the conversation, as far as I know, my situation is unique. Now, you may have heard it 1,000 times before, but trust me, for me, it's unique because I'm the only one that's dealing with it in my household. So Therein lies the issue. And we tend to, we write the prescription before they even get to a diagnosis. So what do people want? Somebody be kind, be thoughtful, care enough to find out what I really need and want, and be empathetic and try to sit on my side of the table. And if you do that, it's the foundation for a relationship. And that's why, from an elevated experience, it's not just all this technical things. It's that human personalization and humanization. That's what's capturing the heart of the consumer today. Humanization, personalization. You deliver on that, people not only want to do business with you, but they start telling, as I said earlier, their friends and family, this guy, this company, these people, and people come.
What's the difference between kindness and thoughtfulness?
Oh, great point. Well, let's think of an example that we probably all have dealt with. Okay, kindness is if you've had a death in the family, and I'd say, well, Chris, I'm sorry for your loss. If I can do anything for you, let me know. Okay. And you'll hear that from several hundred people. But thoughtful is, I'm really sorry what's happened to you, Chris. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to come over and pick up the dog for the week. Take care of your dog. I'll tell you what, like financial advisor at Jacksonville, a good friend of mine, his grandson was murdered and in Atlanta. And the bottom line was, what did the advisor do? He packed up his car, filled that thing full, the back of the trunk and the back seat with snacks and bottled water, and drove 7.5 hours to Atlanta to take water and snacks to the house because he knew people would be coming over in droves. So kindness is, he called and said, sorry for the loss, what's happened? He heard about it, hung up the phone and did a thoughtful thing and went the extra mile. Thoughtfulness is almost always the extra mile. It's example. I was recently in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is pouring. I mean, we got El Nino. I mean, it's pouring like crazy. And I'm in a financial office and I'm watching people get off the elevator. They go out, we're up at about, I don't know, 15, 18 stories, something like that. And I can see people running across the street. I can pick up a piece of paper. They're like this, to try to get to the parking lot, which is across the street. And the people in the window, and I thought, yeah, wouldn't it have been thoughtful if we had like an umbrella with the firm name on it and we gave it to every client when they left? I'll give you another example. I have a young lady in Houston. She sent me a wonderful email because I have a performance tip. You can go to my website and sign up. It's all free, but richardweylman.com. But in any case, she signed up for my performance tip. And I wrote one recently about don't take people to the elevator. Ride down the elevator to the lobby. They're going to tell you things in the elevator they're never going to tell you in your office. Many people are intimidated. So she walked out to the elevator and was like, got on the elevator, 23 stories in the Galleria, rides all the way down to the plaza level, talking to the client who's just basically grunting. She said, what are you doing for he doesn't want to talk. She called him Mr. Tough and Crusty. So they get down to the lobby. She puts out her hand. Thank you so much for coming. He squeezes her hand and said, you're so kind. What you've done for me and my family is amazing. It's made me a wealthy man. And I have an 8th grade education. I'm fully intimidated in your office. You people are so smart. But it was so thoughtful of you to ride the elevator down to the lobby with me today, because it shows me that you really understand me as a person after all of these years. I'm going to be the head of a major charity next year. I want you and your husband to sit on the dais with me because I'm going to give that charity $10 million. And I'm going to tell them it's because of what you've done for me.
Wow. A $10 million act of thoughtfulness right there.
Just because she rode that elevator. Now, it's because she did all the other things. But the fact that she demonstrated, not just talkastrated. I sold cookware door to door when I was a kid. I never sold it in a box. I sold vacuum cleaners, cemetery plots, all that. Well, cemetery plots are hard to demonstrate, but you get my point.
Yeah.
You can talkastrate, but it's a whole different thing if you demonstrate. If you say,
I love that. That is such a good nugget. Demonstrate, don't talk it straight.
Yeah,
walk the walk.
I do this, walk them out there, take them out there. That's what, listen, the whole thing about business today, if you want to build a sustainable business that's permanently successful, is you've got to build a portfolio of great memories with your customers. Period. That's it. If you build a portfolio of great memories, if you have a client and they buy a house from you, when they sell it in 5 years, if you're still in business, because of the memories you created with them, they're going to pick up dial 1-800, hey, Chris, I'm selling the house. And you're going to get the listing again. It's the one more thing you do that says, demonstrates. Can I give you one other example, please?
Oh, we love examples here.
All right. I have a team, they're with Keller Williams. I've just mentioned Keller Williams, and they have me do some work with their top teams. So it's just stuff. Anyhow, so I met with the team and I said, so what do you send people when they have a successful purchase or when they list? Oh, when we sell the house, whatever, we sell them a cake. We send them a cake. I said, oh, what kind of a cake? And it said, well, here's one. They held up their phone and it said, congratulations. And I said, well, congratulations for what? They said, well, for, selling the house. I said, well, it doesn't say that. It just says congratulations. That just looks like you stopped by the bakery and got a congratulations. They were like, well, what should we do different? I said, why don't we have a picture of a house on there with a house number on it and say, enjoy your lovely new dream home. Well, they did it on the next one. Woman posted it on Facebook. They got 4 clients. 1 was a listing, 3 people that were buyers. Now, why? Okay, it was kind to give them a cake, but it's thoughtful to go that extra little bit. Is that helpful?
Oh, it is. And what was also thoughtful is you gave me some coaching when I was setting up this live interview, and you didn't have to do that. It cost you something to take the time to give me the coaching that drew from the book, but I'd like to go over that example so the audience can learn. And so I said something like, I think it was sorry for the delay, because I maybe I was caught up with some work stuff and I took a while to get back to you. And you suggested that thank you for your patience with this reply is a better phraseology. And then the other thing was that I signed off with the word best and best, comma, Chris. And you suggested best regards, kind regards, and warm regards. Now, I think this ties into really a higher degree of thoughtfulness and professionalism. But can we first start with the example of when I said sorry for the delay and you suggested an alternative? What's behind that one?
Okay, very simple. When you think about, again, this in some way refers to my previous book, The Power of Why Breaking Out in a Competitive Marketplace. But in that book, I talk about positioning. How do you, people today don't buy difference. Everybody wants to talk. I was for the chairman of a major university today, and he was talking about difference. And I'm like, difference is polarizing. The only way I can figure out what makes a difference, I got to compare you to what I have. Let's talk about distinction. So how do you be distinct? Well, I don't want to position myself. Well, I'm sorry, I'm late. I really dropped the ball and I really got behind. No, if I say, thank you, let's start with that. Thank you for your patience with this reply. What does that do? Number one, it's a courteous way to exchange. Secondly, you're suggesting to them they've been patient. Thirdly, you diffuse the situation. And fourth, you position yourself as someone who is in control of this situation, meaning you're going to give them the answer they're looking for or some reply. You're not going to start in a negative connotation. And we tested this in focus groups. And every time we said, thank you for thank you for your patience. Did you apply? Every time we said that, people go, empathetic, 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 empathetic. We'd say, sorry, negative, negative, negative. And when you sit there and you have 100 people and 86% of them go empathetic, well, you kind of think, maybe we ought to change that. That's all I'm saying. So what it does, it positions you as someone who's thoughtful, understanding, but you're not demeaning yourself or denigrating yourself going forward. That's the first one. The flip one on the best, of course, we pulled out, we're a research-based consulting firm. So, we do a tremendous, it consumes us. But having said that, what we learned and what I speak about a great deal is this whole idea of how you position and communicate. So I just took your first example. Now let's take the other one, the best. All right. We did a lot of research on this. People don't like that. Best what? Best for you? Best for me? What do you mean best? Best what? Now, best regards is far more, shall we say, gracious. And gracious is important. We did find that sincerely yours is the second one they dislike the most. It's institutional. It sounds like the institution speaking to me, sincerely yours. And most people are, we had people that we interviewed with the interns and they'd say, I often wonder, they say sincerely yours, but I don't think they are. Good. Here's my point. If people don't like it, it's probably okay if we stopped using it. It would help. That's sort of how I look at things. If they don't like it, maybe I'm just going to throw that out. So we began to do it. Warm regards, kind regards, warmest regard, and people love it. And it makes, may I give you another example?
Oh, we love examples. This is so great. It's because when we get examples, it's just easier to conceptualize. So, of course.
Thank you. And this is in, the current book as well as, 100 proven ways. It's got 100 proven ways.
That's a lot of ways.
And it's funny because when I wrote the book, it's not like I sat down, I think I'll write 100 ways. I just started writing. And when I finally said I'm done, I counted them and I was like, no, that can't be right. 100. And that's how it came.
How perfect is that? Like 100, around 100. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. So that said, one of the things that I spoke about last fall, I was speaking to a group of professionals in Dallas, Texas, and the top salespeople in this multinational corporation, 50 people. And there was a question about, I always tell people to feel free to call me. And I said, well, why do you say that? And they said, well, I want them to know it's free. I said, well, if they have a cell phone, for the average person, it is free. Does that sound gracious? And it's a very, very successful executive. And he was like, yeah, it does sound like feel free. It's kind of a throwaway. And I said, yeah, let's try this. Please feel welcome to call. And so, the whole room was like, okay, we'll write that down. So anyhow, this is after I spoke. So several months later, I'm in Long Island speaking at a conference in Nassau. And this fellow comes in that was in the conference in Dallas with 2 young ladies and sits on the front row in a huge ballroom. And so I spoke on how to acquire and keep clients for life. And long story short, they wanted me to do a Q&A session. So I did. And these 2 young ladies both together shot their hands up. They were the first ones. They're like, Mr. Well, Mr. Well. And I said, let's go with Richard. And they said, our dad was in the audience. And of course, I said, yes, how are you? Nice to see you. And when you answered his question about feel welcome, we've been putting that on our emails, and clients actually tell us when they call us, thank you. That is so kind of you.
Wow.
Again, now, let's be crystal clear here. People are reading an email, remembering, please feel welcome to call. When they call, they thank these 2 young ladies who basically run the office for this gentleman. They're his daughters, okay? And people are actually commenting. Now, I don't know about you, but if I can get them to feel that good about a sentence, sign me up.
Yeah. Sign me up. And, Richard, I want people to feel welcome to like this video and share it with more people who could benefit from the message, and subscribe to the channel and follow you and get your book. Does this apply, like feel welcome to do these things applies to those types of calls to action in this context?
Right. Exactly right. So now people will say, so how are you going to follow up on this? Don't ever call anybody to follow up. Hi, George. You pick up your phone. Hi, Mr. Wilson. I'm just calling and follow up with you. Listen, if they'd already made a decision, they would have called you. I'm just following up. I got nothing more to offer. I'm really stuck here, but I'm really hoping you're going to say yes, because I need it today. Don't do that. Call people up, say, hi, Mrs. Wilson. Hey, Richard Weylman here. So glad to hear your voice. Not thanks for answering my call. Is this a good time? No. Great to hear your voice. I've identified 2 or 3 additional steps that we can take to help you to be able to get the home of your dreams. I'd like to sit down and take over these next steps with you so I can put you on the path to what you want to accomplish. Adults want steps. And I've worked with hundreds and thousands, I guess, consumers. They love steps. If you say, okay, here's the next steps. And they're like, okay, next step. I'm ready. What's the step? What we say, so what do you think? So how does that sound? What do you think? Does that sound good? Does that sound okay? What do you think of that? What is that? Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, have I explained this to you in a way that is helpful? Yes, it is. Great. Now, let me tell you our next steps. That's what people want. They want a next step. Now, how do I know this? Because we interviewed them when I was building a book, and they said the thing that most of the time we don't buy because people don't give us the next steps to buy. They'll say, well, what do you think? We say, well, we need to think about it. Okay, go home and think about it. What are you doing?
Richard, I have a huge customer call tomorrow, and I'm in technology sales, and I'm going to say, hey, here are the next steps. So this is so actionable, and I can apply it in my call tomorrow. And anyone listening, and we've got some, young sellers in this community looking to build permanent success like you're talking about. We can all apply this. Super excited.
Give people next steps. And when you're talking about the value of that which it is that you're offering, don't say, well, it's got a great technical into this and that, and it does this and that. In our interviews, when I was building the book out, and of course, this is a lifetime of working with consumers. This was basically just all my experience. I plowed into this book, and the good Lord gave it to me. But I look back and I think about all the times that we love to talk about our features and our attributes and about our product, and we fall in love with the product and the platform and the process and the procedure. And the consumer on the other side is in love with only 2 things. What's going to be the outcome and what's the experience going to be like working with you? That's all they care about. Mm-hmm. We're in love with the platform and the product and all that. They're in love with the outcome and so when you're speaking with them, say, now, one of the things about this software program, let me tell you what this means to you. Mm. You'll see them they'll lean right. I've had people and they'll lean right into the computer. Like, I don't want to miss this. Now, let me tell you what this means to you, and tell them how it applies to their problem. And then say, and the benefit to you is, Chris, boom. And then they see the path. See the path.
It's not like, oh, we can do this, and we're so great. Let me tell you what this means for you, how it's going to make your life easier. And of course, your delivery is incredible. Your tone, your confidence, and it's welcoming. So, I mean, you're a natural, or maybe, I don't know. Were you always this good?
Oh, I lived in, my mother died when I was 5. My dad died when I was 6. I lived in
Wow.
19. I lived in 19 foster homes. I went
Can
to
you
11.
tell us your story? Because I noticed that, and it seems like absolutely inspiring. And it
Well,
really,
it's like I said, the good Lord's been good to me. But no, my mother died when I was 5. My dad died when I was 6, and my brother, sister, and I were split up, and I lived in 19 foster homes and went to 11 different
wow.
schools. But it was great training because I never had call reluctance. My first sales job, the guy says, "You got to go in strangers' houses." I'm like, "So what's the big deal? I've been living with them my whole life." I mean, it just never occurred to me somehow that was supposed to be an issue.
Oh my
What's
gosh.
the big deal? So, I mean, he looked at me like I was nuts. Actually, I
Oh,
was nuts. I didn't know it, but anyhow, so that really began my journey. And then, I saw Cooker Encyclopedia, Cemetery Plots, Family Bibles. And then I was in the industrial laundry business selling Daco rugs and dust mops door to door of my 63 old beat up Volkswagen with 100,000 miles on it. But, and then through a whole series of circumstances, got involved with a client who was getting Porsche Audi. And she said, she was German. She said, "Mr. Weylman, I want you to come to work for me." Her name was Mrs. Römer. I said, "I don't know anything about selling cars." She said, "No, but you are very good at building relationships and you will help us here." So we built a dealership, and we were number one in worldwide distributors for almost 19 months, and in a little town in upstate New York. And then Rolls-Royce recruited me to take over a service stop, and we built that into the third largest Rolls-Royce dealership in the United States in a town of 1,800 people by
wow.
building relationships. And then and then I got involved with the Rob Report, and we built that up and had a liquidity event. And then people began to call me to speak, and I'm like, "For about what?" And they said, "Just tell us how you took a magazine with 600 subscribers and with a fax machine got 55,000 subscribers, paying $55 a year in 5 years."
Wow.
But we did it by communicating what this means to you. So for the last many years now, I've been out speaking. I speak all over the world, and it's just I just want to. I listen. I hear. I'm an auditory, so I hear things, and somehow the good Lord gives me the ability to assimilate it down in a way that say, okay, what was really said there by that consumer? What were they? What are they looking for? And then it becomes clear to me. And then when I can, excuse me, put those prescriptive tactics into your business.
Yeah, it seems like you can communicate very succinctly, and I'd be curious to understand, what are some of the aspects that make your communication so effective? And it may be partly, are you just really good at, you can listen to the customer and distill what they want? Can you take complex concepts and make them simple? You tell great stories. Like, what are some of the keys to great communication at your level?
Well, I think at the base, and clients hire us for this, they're always, I don't know how to explain, but somehow I always see, we'll say in your question example, the consumer's point of view. I can always see the other, somehow it's called discernment. That's the spiritual gift is often referred to. I had a company as an example. Just let me give you an example. They spent $6 million on a sales program, couldn't figure out why the sales force wasn't using it. They're all freaked out. Everybody's in, The CEO had read my other book and called, and he said, "Yeah, do you think he came up?" Sure. I flew up. So I met the committee, 23 people, not a committee, it was a gang. But anyway, and it took an hour for everybody to introduce themselves before we got down to what's the problem, but it was okay. But when it was all said and done, I said, well, the reason this doesn't work is because as a salesperson, it doesn't connect to their day-to-day activities. What do you mean? I said, the content's fabulous, but it's not from the consumer's point of view, so the salesperson can't use it to move product. And therein, I think, is a great lesson for all of us in communication. Communication requires relevance. You've got to be relevant to the individual that's listening. Let's put it that way. Maybe we'll say it that way from a communicator. So you got to be relevant. You can't just talk in ethereal and conceptual. And, I speak at colleges and universities occasionally, and Wharton School and others I've spoken at Anderson School. And these are people trying to learn and to absorb and to do and to be. And you can talk in ethereal terms. They hear that a lot. They want to know, yeah, but how to? I mean, what do I do? So I think first you have to be relevant. And then secondly, you have to be prescriptive. And what I mean by that is it's one thing to say, this is what you should, example, everybody should be elevating the client experience. There's lots of books out there on elevating the client experience. And they say, you need to be a better listener. You need to do a better job. You need to take the customer's point of view. You need to be supportive of the vision of the firm. And those are all true. But why doesn't it happen? Because it's not prescriptive. People need to know how to do it. I was at a conference recently, and a wonderful speaker, 45 minutes on focus. Never got around to how.
Was he basically talking about why focus matters, but didn't talk about like how to implement it?
The importance of focus.
Okay.
And we all have gone, and I'm not being critical of, that's an important message.
Yeah.
But to your question about communication, first, it's a gift that I just somehow, I have CEOs call me and explain a problem. I say, well, did you ever think about this? And I go, God, I got 15 people on staff here. We've been 2 days here, and I call you in 15 minutes. You're asking me a question. I go, God, no, that's not me. That's just a gift I have. That's one. But two, from a communication point of view, people say, keep it simple, stupid. No. People say ignorance is bliss. It is not. It's frustrating. It's not bliss. So let's not talk about ignorance is bliss. The reason people don't change behavior is not because they're not motivated. They don't know what to do and how to do it. So be prescriptive. Don't just tell me what to do. Explain how I can. That's why I've given you a couple of examples tonight. Not because I'm like, I need to give Chris an example, but I know from years of experience, I've given over 4,000 keynotes all over the world. You learn that the message is good, but it's only good if it's applicable. And if you can't apply it, it doesn't matter in the big picture. The speaker was great. What did he talk about? Well, elevating the client experience stuff. Well, what was your takeaways? Well, it wasn't like really, and you hear this, and this has burned a hole in my heart because I just want to plant in their lives and say, look, here's what I heard when people said, I don't like best, I don't like sincerely yours. And we ask them, I just love when somebody says kind regards or warm regards or best regards. I just feel like they're sitting on my side of the couch. I went, ding, I think maybe we'll be trying that. It's just like Chris, is your first name Christopher?
Yes. When my mom's pissed, she's Christopher John.
Okay, Christopher John. My first initial is C. It's C. Richard, Charles Richard. I don't know. All right. But if you talk to somebody, if you got a client base, a lot of people have Salesforce, et cetera. And I have a lot of clients that have it. And they say, we have a CRM, Salesforce. And I said, well, it's too bad you call it a CRM. Well, that's what it is. Well, it's not. It should be a customer experience manager, a CXM. You should have fields in there and the things that they like. Maybe their name. Dr. Donna Wilson doesn't want to be called Donna unless she tells you it's okay. She probably wants to be called Doctor. And Sam might be Samuel. And Elizabeth, I have a friend in Atlanta. Her name is Elizabeth. She goes by Lolly. Why? Because when she was a kid, her grandfather gave her lollipops and called her Lolly. And she's 83 and her name is still Lolly. And if you call her Elizabeth, she knows you don't know her. My first initial C, I get lots of emails. Dear C, I don't read them. I knew T. Boone Pickens. I can tell you, T. Boone Pickens never went by T. So if you want to personalize and humanize, take an extra moment. Don't ask people, can you spell your name? Most people can. Could you explain it to me in a way that so I can get it correctly? It's a little thing, makes a big difference. The other night I was checking in. I was St. Charles, Illinois, snowing like crazy. Front door of the hotel wouldn't open. It had security locks, but even with the guy inside, he's pushing. So he comes over with a bar, and we pry the door open. I go in with my bag and my briefcase. He turns around. He said, "Checking in." It's 11:15 at night. It's snowing. Yeah, I'm checking in. The next thing he says, can you spell your name? So just think about the way we converse with people. Makes a huge impact. You've had situations, Chris, where people said, does that make sense? What they're really saying, are you smart enough to keep up there, big boy?
I'm guilty of that one. I'm guilty of that one. Like, so
Well,
I notice, Richard, you say, was that helpful?
mhm.
Is that the better version, or I'm just making an
Absolutely.
assumption?
Is that helpful? Did I explain that in a way that was helpful? What
Yes,
is
it
it that I can
was.
explain? Yeah, or I could say, like, what is it you don't? Are you with me? Are you with me on this? Are you smart enough to keep up, or is this a little over your head?
Okay, so does that make sense? Are you with me? Makes him feel like a dummy.
Well,
But was that
it's
helpful?
condescending.
Gosh, because I do that. That's so subtle. I love how
And you
nuanced you
denigrate
are.
people. But if you say, okay, now, Chris, we've gone through this. What is it that I have not explained to you properly? Richard, I got it all. Maybe here's another thing we do in sales, often in sales or service. Okay. Do you have any questions? And when people go, no. Why do you ask that? Say, okay, what other topics would you like to talk about while you're with me today? Well, I did want to, and here it comes. And it's probably the burning platform in their brain. See, it just connects. You personalize, humanize. They're like, God, this guy is so good. I just want to be. See the difference? And those
Richard,
relationships are gold, brother. Excuse me. Go ahead. I didn't mean to say.
no, at what point did you get so good with understanding these nuances of language? It's almost like, I think of, like, there's all these like natural NLP, natural linguistic programming, and there's these like very powerful personal growth concepts, and I'm like, you're operating at a different level. You're seeing things people don't see, like in the way we speak, and it actually has a huge impact. Like, you're welcome or feel welcomed, and like, and these things can actually drive sales. So like, at what point did you get to this level, or was there a turning point, or is it just over the many years?
I think the right answer, because there's not like, aha, the epiphany moment. It was just over the years, things that I learned many times the hard way. It's not that I'm that smart. It's just that I made enough mistakes to know which ones to avoid. What I've done is I've written things down, and I began to assimilate these. And I write about my performance tip. I do it about every 10 days. And you go to Richard Weylman, WEYLMAN.com, and just click, and you can sign up for the performance tip. It's all free. I mean, I do videos sometimes. I do a lot of different things there, but all short messages on how to really connect with people. And so as I began over the years, I've just made lots and lots and lots of notes. And because I realized that the more we can make that individual with whom we want to do business, or that person who's come into our restaurant, if we can make them feel welcome, that will drive additional business because they feel like they're in the right place. And so it was more of a hearing. And remember, I'm an auditory, so I hear these things. I hear how people speak. But I'll give you another example. There was a restaurant down in, South Florida. I'll just leave it there. And this guy was really struggling. It was wild. And we just worked with the Minnesota Vikings when they built their new stadium. We did an audit of the stadium.
Oh, no. We need you working with the Packers. That's my team.
Yeah. So, it was fun. I mean, I got done. They were like, so what do we do? I said, well, you need 2,300 more TVs in the stadium. They're like, 2,300 more TVs. So, but they did, and it worked out good. Went from 17th to 7th in NFL revenue in 1 year with a losing team, which was, like
17th to 7th. And because you told them you need 2,300 TVs.
No, I would no, listen, it wasn't because I told them just that. They did many things. They've got a great team, trained 2,500 people to not point. I said, don't point at the bathroom. No, the men's room's not down there. Open your hand and say, it's this way. Change when you go into security. It's not security. Pass through here to be a certified Viking fan. Okay. In the suites, people come in there, they got all kinds of devices. They got an iPhone or they got an iPad. Great. How come there are no cords here? For what? So they can charge them. Oh, why would it? Well, people are coming. They want to charge up their phone. So we put baskets with cords of every possible device in every single suite. And the parking spaces, we're like, what do we do here? Make them wider, raise the price. People will pay if I don't get my doors dinged. Anyhow, I was down in South Florida, and this guy, I was doing an event, and this fellow came up and he said, I own a restaurant, and we're kind of in the financial district, and it's really, people. Our business is just okay and everything's packed. I said, well, what do people do when they come in? He said, they order food. I said, no. What do they do when they come in the restaurant? He said, well, they order food. I said, okay, I'll come tomorrow for lunch. Let's find out what they're doing. He said, you don't need to come. I'm telling you, I'm in the restaurant. You got to like this, I'm in the restaurant business. I know what I'm talking about. That's fine. May I come for lunch? Sure. I wasn't there 10 minutes. I called him over and said, they ain't here for the food. He said, what are you talking about? I said, look at them. They're all on their phones. He looked around and he said, yeah. I said, so why don't we put power cord all the way around the outside walls and have your waitresses bring plug-ins so they can charge their phones? Well, you would have thought he was giving away food. He sent me a picture 3 weeks later. There was a line out the door. People were there. They could eat. There was like 5 restaurants all within walking distance. They came to his restaurant, to charge their phone and be on the phone. So what are people doing in your space? They're coming. I'll give you another one. I have a fast food restaurant we worked with. Same thing. They just won the National Fast Restaurant Award. Everybody's coming in, all the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts and the Bible study on Tuesday and Wednesday night. And they're in booths. Well, they want to sit together. So take the booths out and get movable chairs. Well, guess what? That worked out pretty good. Because the Girl Scouts are over here and the Cub Scouts are over there and the Pony League's over here and the Bible stuff. They can move their chairs around and they can come together and have a little community right in that fast food restaurant.
Wow.
It drove same store sales up. Why? They had a great experience.
It seems like across industries, no matter what type of business, it all comes down to creating an amazing experience.
Bingo. That's all. I mean, I won't say that's all it is, but that's what it requires. But it requires the basis of understanding. You got to be thoughtful. You got to think about, okay, what's going on here? Like when I went to restaurants, well, they're here eating, but they're on their phones. Well, what's that going to? I said, well, for God's sakes, let them charge. I would have never saw that. I said, because you see the food, I see the behavior. So you got to be thoughtful. You got to be caring. You got to care enough to fix it, or at least try to do something about it. It'd be helpful if you were kind. Here's the cords, or move the chairs, or we don't care if you make a mess. And you're a little bit empathetic. And if you do that, they have a great experience. What do? We just did some work with a polling center, and see if I can get that number right. I think it was, I'm going to say it was 83. I think it was 87, but 83% of people felt compelled to share good and bad experiences with people in their network. And we know that's true. You got keyboard warriors too, right? So anyway, I digress. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, we're getting some great comments, by the way. Thank you all for showing up. David, CC, Travis, and others. David says Richard's insights are super interesting, which, I mean, you've got so many examples and stories. It's pretty incredible. So I was reading your book, and again, feel very lucky to get a sneak peek. And guys, I've linked the book in the description of this video, so you can go and pre-order it on Amazon. And it's coming out March 12th, right, Richard?
March 12th, yeah. And March 12th is the release date, and really grateful. We've got a great publisher, Mango Publishing. My whole goal was speed to market, and they accommodated that. They're a wonderful publishing house, and I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to work with them and to be on with you, Chris. Thanks for the invite.
It's so great to have you. What an honor. And I noticed the book is written so meticulously, and I really enjoyed it. And it starts out with a great, story on Chewy and the customer experience. And I'm not going to give that away. Okay. Right. Cliffhanger, but the book really is a treat, pun intended. Well, I got a dog, Bella, here over that loves it. She's the best. But,
where's that Bella? Hey, Bella, how you doing?
Pretty good. But another chapter in the book it mentions making customers feel emotionally secure. And I don't know if making them feel that way is the best term, but can you speak to emotional security and how we create that type of experience?
Yeah, I think let's say as business owners and salespeople, we often forget we're all about economic security, the price, rate, the beat. But what people are really focused on before they make a decision, or shall we say as part of the decision, maybe that's more appropriate, they emotionally want to feel like they're in the right place and they're in the right situation. So how do you do that? I mean, everybody said, well, money's emotional. Purchases are emotional. And again, these are great things to hear, but I'm sitting there. Okay, let me write that down. Money is emotional. The purchase is emotional. Okay, thanks. And I'm selling air conditioners. Okay, good. Money's emotional. Well, how am I going to act on that? How am I going to make that customer know that he knows or she knows? I have no clue. It's a great comment, but it means nothing. So that's why I wrote a whole chapter on how to make it mean something. May I give you an example? Here's an example.
Awesome.
Well, I'll give you a couple examples.
Yes.
How can I help you? I have no clue, dude. I got a problem. My air conditioner's not running. I don't know if you can help me. How can I help you? Well, and what we tend to do as salespeople, we jump right into, how can I help you? How can I help you? What can I do for you today? Instead of trying to build not just rapport, but to really get them to tell a little of their story. I'll give you an example. When Lexus first came to this country, Lexus is a big Toyota. Lexus owners get mad when I say that, but I spend a lot of time in Japan, there are no Lexus. They're just Grand Toyotas. Those are Lexus. Okay. But it's okay. It's a branding exercise. So, but the cool thing was when they first came to this country, when you went into, and they still do it in many dealerships, when you go into a Lexus dealer, they're going to ask you, why do you want to buy a Lexus? Oh, well, I want to buy it because it's very safe. And, I've heard really good things about it. And, we want a car that's reliable. And we start telling this whole story. And then the second question they taught everybody was, who do you want to buy it for? And, well, I want to buy it for my daughter. She's going. So now we know why we're buying it, who we're buying it for. Now the only question is, what price and color are you arranged for? Because they told you their story. Well, it's the exact. I did that in the Rolls Royce business. When somebody called me, I didn't ask them, how much you want to spend. I said, well, why do you want to buy a Rolls Royce? And they said, well, let me tell you. And they go on for 15 minutes. I say, great. Well, who are you buying it for? I'm buying it for myself. Except for Kenny Rogers. He said, I'm buying it for my wife, Mary Ann Gordon. I promised her I'd buy her a Rolls Royce for her birthday. I said, really? And he said, yeah. I said, so the only thing you're really concerned about is whether I can deliver it in a box? He said, yeah. I said, so if I have a box built? He said, yeah, I'll pay for the box. So I built a box, put the rolls in it. She got it for her birthday, and it was great. So what's the point? Get them to tell you the story. They got a story. So just ask them. So I'm curious, Chris, how long have you been in the business? Or if you could ask a question like that. If somebody comes in and says, and they've got 2 children, I'm just curious, how old are the children? Do they go to school here in town? In other words, get them to tell a little about them instead of, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Most people they got a problem. They're looking for a solution. I don't know if you can help me or not, but could you engage? So that's one. Get them to tell their story. And we polled that. Yes, sir.
Quick thought, Professor, is that you gave us the answer to, if you get the interview question for us young sellers trying to start our career and get a new sales job, sell me this pen. Yeah. Right. And if people are like, oh, how do I respond? You just gave us a framework. Oh, like, why are you looking for a pen? Oh, who are you looking to get it for? You just gave us the answers. And then,
well, what do you want to do? I want to sign a contract. You're going to need a pen.
Anyway, so I had to throw that in. It's really practical and helpful. Okay, keep going.
That was good. And one I would not have thought of. So thank you for that. That was quite great. Yeah. Quite good. Thank you, Chris, for that. That was a memorable.
We're having fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. We're not going to have fun. No, we can't do this. We're not going to have fun. We got to have fun. So that's one example. Get them to tell. And here's what we've discovered. When you get people, I'm not talking about an hour. If you get somebody to tell just a little bit of the story, you know what their mental state is? Finally found somebody who cares about my situation. It's remarkable. People are so desperate today for somebody to be thoughtful, kind, caring, and empathetic that just, I'm curious, how long have you lived in Nashville? I'm just curious. So you have an air conditioner. I'm just curious, how long ago did you buy that? Where did you buy it from? Was it in the house you're in now? And they no, it was in, and people had it, and I'll tell you, and we had the house and this and that, and it was in, and it's been a problem ever since. Well, I'll tell you, we can solve that for you. Thanks. I'm here now in the right place. What can I do for you? My air conditioner's broke. Well, let me show you what I got. Whoa, slow down. Take some oxygen. Breathe through your nose. Slow down. Get them to tell a little of your story. Builds emotional connection. Second thing, don't ask the tough questions too directly. They hate that. So how much money are you going to spend there, Chris? Geez, I mean, please. And then here's another one. So if you don't mind me asking, how much money you want to spend? Well, the first thing is I do mind you asking. And secondly, as soon as I say, if you don't mind me asking, that's my predicate, proper English. But the point is, most people are like, "Oh my God, what's coming now?"
Is
Right?
this the next chapter about making them feel economically secure?
No,
Is that
this
what
is
we're getting?
no. This is going to
Oh,
be
this
emotional.
is still emotionally? Okay, that's my next question. Back to the emotional part. Okay.
Yep, all right. Well, I want to give you two examples. So this is a way to make them emotionally feel like you're empathetic.
Okay.
Everybody said, "Well, I'm empathetic to your situation." Now let's get to what was that? Now let's get to, see people talk us straight. I'm very happy. Oh, I understand your situation. Now they get right to the sale. Slow down. Ask the tough questions empathetically. Get on their side of the table. And I had an epiphany. I woke up in the middle of the night. I mean, like 2:30 in the morning, and it was like, I got it. The predicate is the problem. The predicate's in the wrong place. We say, if you don't mind me asking, Chris, how long have you been married? And people are like, if you don't mind me asking, Chris, how much money are you going to invest? If you don't mind me asking, Chris, I do mind you asking, to be quite frank with you, and I don't appreciate the direct. So let's flip it. So how much money do you want to invest, Chris? If you don't mind me asking. When people go, well, I didn't really want to, but let me tell you my situation. And here it comes, because now you're right here with them, and they got their head on your shoulder saying, "Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you taking the time to see my situation." That powerful emotional security. Just put the predicate on top of the question.
One more time, if you don't mind, the phrasing.
Okay. Instead of saying, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you want to invest in a new house? Let's do the different. How much do you want to invest in a new house, Chris? If you don't mind me asking.
Wow.
And you know what they go? They go, well, we normally wouldn't tell anybody, but. Or here's another one. So what is it I haven't explained to you properly? If you don't mind me asking. So what's keeping you from moving forward on a decision right now? If you don't mind me asking.
Wow.
And so, if you don't mind me asking, why aren't you moving forward? What are you, nuts? I mean, what am I talking over your head there, big boy? Are you keeping up with me? Have I made this clear? Does that make sense? God, we just crushed the relationship. Snap out of it. It's not about you. It's about them.
And so the stutter too, if you don't mind me asking. Maybe I don't do 4, but like maybe 2. No,
but it's that pregnant pause that allows them to gather their own inner comfort.
You're non-threatening. You're like
Correct.
almost like you're kind of a little imperfect.
Amen, brother. That's good teaching right there. You're exactly right.
So, and I want to be respectful of your time, and thank you for your patience, because I didn't get you the right link to start this thing. But we have about 8 minutes, if we're a little over, if you're okay with that, or if you don't mind.
Go.
I'm trying to apply the mindset here. Can you talk about economic security? Because I realize it's a whole different thing.
Well, as I said earlier, the key is application, and this is where the gap comes. There's a big gap. You got the value gap. You got, let's say, the buyer over here, and you got us over here, and in between is a gap, and the gap's getting bigger all the time because everybody looks the same, sounds the same, presents the same, says the same thing, which is pretty much all about themselves. I mean, talk about a product and our platform and our process. So if you want to build economic security with people, everybody says what they want to know. They got a good price. Well, of course, price is important. You can't go, ridiculous. But when you tell people, I call it FAB, feature, advantage, benefit. Everybody thinks people buy the feature. Oh, this is a really good, this air conditioning system has been, it's got a 7-year warranty on it. It's fantastic. Compressor is industrial. It's really great. They ain't buying that. You think they're buying it. They could care less. You're saying it's going to keep your house cold. They ain't buying that either. They want to know what's the advantage of this thing over the next one. And they don't understand the technical crap. But if you tell them, now the advantage is, may I take you through it? Okay, so this particular air conditioner has additional BTUs in it. And the nice thing is that it's climate controlled and it is very good on the climate. Now, what this means to you, Chris, is this house is going to, it's not only going to cool your house, it's going to reduce your energy bills. And the most important thing to you is by reducing your energy bills, you're going to have a great benefit. And that benefit is you're not going to be tied to increased energy cost, and you're still going to have a cool house and not have to run that thermostat to 76 degrees. And you did say you wanted to keep the house cooler because the children really like the fact and your wife likes the house cool. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
So
correct.
what have I done? I've told them the advantage. FAB, feature. My last book, I wrote a lot about that. I did pages and examples of all different industries on feature, advantage, benefit. And I have companies that, in fact, I have two that I've talked to in the last week and a half or so. They've completed a complete advantage-based value matrix so they can always communicate value from the consumer, or we'll say customer's point of view. Why? Because it builds economic security. People are not buying the feature. They're not buying the benefit. They're buying what it does for them. And as salespeople, we assume that they understand. Sadly, they don't. You know what this will do for you more than anybody else. So that's one. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, don't follow up with people. Identify next steps. Thirdly, to give people, and I'll give you a class. I just had this happen. When somebody says no, send them a thank you note. What? Send them a thank you note. Don't start off with I'm sorry, because Chris, you already covered that. Thank you. What do you send in the thank you note? Disappointed we're unable to do business now. Now, I didn't say forever. I said now. Disappointed we're unable to do business now, period. I look forward, not I hope, no, I look forward to serving you in the future. Not selling, serving you in the future. Always feel welcome to call. Sincerely yours. No. What would you say? Warm regards, Chris Bussing. I just spoke at a conference. I sent the CEO a thank you note 4 years ago for saying no. Couldn't make it work.
Okay.
All right. So now he introduces me. 300 people in the auditorium. He said, 4 years ago, I wanted to have Richard come, and we just couldn't get it worked out schedule-wise, et cetera. And I got this amazing note from him, handwritten. And here it is.
Wow.
And he said, this is why he's back here.
Holy cow.
Dear George, disappointed we're unable to get this scheduled now. I look forward to speaking with your group in the future and help them elevate their business performance. Always feel welcome to reach out. I'm here for you, Richard.
That's beautiful. And so succinct too. It's not overly blabbery, but it's just to the point and really
3 sentences.
nice.
A note. If you have more than 3 sentences, you got a letter. Now you got to open, middle, and close. For the English majors on here, don't send me a blast. All right, so it's 3 lines. But then here was, and I'll tell you what it really does. It allows them to save face. Because somebody may say, we can't afford this right now, and then they get it. Or maybe they say, we're going to go with a different provider. And they've been working with this person for a couple of months, and they're like, this is nuts. We should have went with Chris. They say, Chris, we really appreciate your note. And we've thought about this, and we thought maybe we ought to come back to you. It's just, I wish I had kept track over the years, all the business I've done from thank you for saying no. It's amazing.
I'm going to re-listen to this after, as I do. I listen to the game tape, and I encourage the audience to review this as well. But I want to start to leverage that exact language myself. I have a customer that I fought for over a year to win them and had them for a year, but due to a competitor who flat out bought their business, and there were factors candidly outside of my control where it was just dollars and cents.
Yeah.
They had to churn. And so I'm going to put this into action and send that note the way you phrased it. And I feel pretty confident down the road. It could be a year down the road, maybe more, especially when that executive at that company goes to a different company. Boom, there's going to be another opportunity. So I think this is such a game changer, actually, especially for those of us out there that want to have permanent long-term success.
Thank you. That's exactly why I wrote this book, because these are the things that makes all the difference. Well, I have a friend of mine. He's 94 years old. He lives in Atlanta. It's the last story in the book. And he's the #1 hot water heater salesperson commercial for over 60 years in the country. And I asked him about it, and his name is Ken Clary. And I said, Ken, what was the secret? He said, well, They're not clients, they're friends. Now, he's been retired a couple of years, but the reality is every day of the week, breakfast and lunch, he took an engineer out, a different engineer. So that's 10 meals a week he had with clients and
Wow.
prospects to build relationships. All right. Now, he's retired. It's all done now. He's 94. I just saw him last weekend. You know what he's doing every day? Going to breakfast and lunch with his friends, all
Wow.
engineers. They
Oh
love
my
him. They'll
gosh.
do anything for him. Now, why is that? Because he built a relationship. And when he was at 81 years old, his provider that he'd been selling for had been number one for 60 years, 50 years, came in and said, "You're too old. We're going to remove the territory." He's manufacturer's rep. He's like, "Okay." So he got another line. The other company went bankrupt because all of his engineers switched to him. We don't care what you're selling, Ken. If you're selling it, we're going to recommend it. So here we are. Here he's number one in this company. They say, "You're too old. You're out of here." He said, "Okay, I'll go over to this little company here." Guess what? They got so big, that company went out of business.
Oh my gosh.
That's what happens when you build relationships, because relationships drive revenue. And so what's the basis of relationship? Personalize and humanize. What's that mean? That means you got to be thoughtful, caring, kind, and empathetic. And if you're that, people will flock to you. And particularly in today's world with the internet, people tell people, you know that. It's a wonderful thing.
Relationships build revenue, and you showed us what's possible if we're thoughtful, caring, and empathetic. Customers will follow us and our success will be guaranteed, and those customers will actually turn into our friends. And that's what I think that's the beauty of business and sales, because I'm still in a sales job.
Yeah.
And it's like we get paid to develop what can bloom into authentic personal relationships. And man, you got me fired up about that.
Well, let me just summarize it this way. Friend raising precedes fundraising.
Okay. And by the way, I know we're on time, so I want to double click into that. And then I have one more question for you to be respectful of your time. But you've had so many good lines, and that's one of them. Friend raising precedes fundraising. Can you unpack that a little more?
Yeah. Okay. So the more you focus on building a relationship with people, the more interested they are in doing business with you and socializing that which it is that you do for them. So when I talk about the fact that people 80, I'm going to say I think it's 87, but I'm going to say 83. I'll check it. It's in the book. 83% of people, at least, say that they feel it's important. This is a really important point I'm about to make. They feel it's important to share good or bad experiences with people in their network. Now, what does that mean? People today are joining organizations like never before. They're moving into gated communities. They're pickleball. They're people live in a neighborhood. They have a neighborhood community center. They have neighborhood, all these things, because people learned during the pandemic that those networks kept them sane, because they could go online and talk to people all over because of that network. So people are very involved in networks. But now they're like, if I find a good provider, I want to get the people in my network to know that. So the question is your networking? Well, the way to get your networking is what? Is to focus on personalization, humanization, being kind, thoughtful, caring. And guess what happens? They feel like, yeah, I had a guy tell me, he said, "Richard, I really feel like all of my clients, I feel like I'm part of their network. They see me as a friend." This guy's got $1.6 billion a year business.
Oh my gosh. We're talking billions. That says a lot. So I will tell you, this conversation has been really memorable. And you talked about building a portfolio of memories. And that's something I'm going to remember with your clients and with people. And so can we finish off on that note of any other final thoughts on how to create, a portfolio of memories with, customers and the people in your life?
Well, and obviously it goes back to the core, thoughtful, kind, and care. But I think there's a larger point here. Not all of us are good at remembering names or faces and stuff like that. I'll give you an example. Okay. So, guy in West Virginia, his daughter's trying out for what do you call it? Cheerleading.
Yeah.
All right. She's, I don't know. High school.
I like that, cheerleading.
Yeah, she's in high school, whatever. But he just mentioned it's like a throwaway line. He said, "Yeah, I got to go to school tonight. My daughter's in the tryouts for high school." I put that in the database. He said, so let's talk for 6 or 8 weeks and we'll decide what we're going to do. I'm going to give you 2 examples. So 6 or 8 weeks later, I reached out to him and said, let's talk about our next steps, not to follow up. Let's talk about our next steps. So we had a Zoom. And I said, George, before we get going, tell me how your daughter did at the tryouts. He said, the tryouts. I said, yeah, for cheerleading. Oh, my God. He said, it was unbelievable. And he tells me that. But you see, that's gold. That's gold. I'm going to give you one more. I had a CEO, I mean, for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. We just never, it was like 2 ships. And I looked up where he went to school. By the way, everybody ought to do this, every prospect. I looked where he went to school. Where he went to school, they had North Texas, I think it's North Texas University. Don't quote me on that, but it was something in Texas. They have the mascot that they do, the whole team, the people in the stands when the team's playing, they do the claw. That's what it's called, the claw. So anyhow, we have a Zoom, okay? So I said, by the way, did you go? I think it was North. I said, did you go? He said, yeah. I said, you know where they do the claw? Because I saw it on LinkedIn, so I looked up what's the match, the claw.
And you did it with emotion and kind of being goofy.
So he says, that's right. He said, but you're not, get your thumb up. He said, hold on. Holly, come in here. He said, I got Richard Weylman out here. He's trying to do my wife, she knows how. So now she said, hey, Richard, get your, that's it, right? And she's teaching me how to do the claw on Zoom, his wife. So she said, that's exactly right. And so he goes, great job. I'm really proud of you. Thanks, honey. He said, okay, so where were we? I said, well, we're talking about doing that research. He said, I'll tell you what, let's just set up a Zoom, get my people. We're going to work together. I'll get my people on. We'll just make a decision. He said, let's just make this happen. We never even got to the price of the project.
Wow.
Get to the claw.
Wow. What amazing examples to end on. Guys, if you haven't seen enough proof points of the value of Richard's book, again, 100 proven ways to acquire and keep clients for life, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I got so much value out of this. I'm going to rewatch the game tape, and I encourage us all to check out the book and pre-order it on Amazon. Again, coming out officially on March 12th. Richard, thank you for your generosity in terms of your insights, but also your energy and your passion. It really did elevate us, and you created an amazing experience and a core memory for me. Any other final calls to action in terms of how folks can engage with you, maybe your website? I think you mentioned some other things. I'd love to finish up with any other calls to action.
Sure, just very quick. You just, well, 2 things. One, you can get it on Amazon, the book, and all the bookstores. You can go to my website, richardweylman.com, WEYLMAN.com. And right on the front, you'll see you can click it, learn more about the book. You can order, and it's got all the bookstore links there, because it's not just Amazon. I want to support Barnes and Noble and
got it. Yeah.
all the others. But that's one. But 2, subscribe to my performance tip. You'll see it. You go to just scroll down on the homepage all the way to the bottom, and you'll see the box. Just hit your email. We don't sell you anything. But I wrote 2 more today. So on one on kindness, and the other is on the challenge with satisfaction scores, because a lot of people say my clients are satisfied. Well, satisfied clients are loyalty neutral. Satisfied customers are too. So I'll close on this point, Chris. Everybody said, well, no, my customers are pretty satisfied. Well, let me ask you, have you brought in any new customers this year? Oh, yeah, I brought them in from the other guy. I bet you if we went to the other guy, he's going to say, I can't imagine why they left. They were satisfied. Your goal is to take those satisfied clients you've got and turn them into delighted advocates. That's your job. That's experience that you create, not the company, nobody else. People are going to have an experience with you. As I said at the onset, you get to decide what it's going to be. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you so much for coming on, and cheers, guys, to delighting our customers and the people in our lives, even beyond business, to your success in sales and in life. Happy selling and happy living. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Richard, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. God bless.
God bless.